In today's video, I'm going to share a few tips on how to manage your time for language learning and create an effective plan to learn English. I will also show you how to plan your week effectively, stay motivated by writing your why, and adjust your routine to keep making progress. The first step of creating a language plan is time management. At least this is something that I do and something that I benefit from a lot. In this step, I want you guys to think, how much time can you realistically dedicate to language learning every single week? Because at the beginning, we always say, yeah, I'm gonna study the language every single day for 2 hours and I'm gonna learn this language so freaking fast. But then when it actually comes to it, you skip a day, you skip 2 days, and then before you know it, it's been like a month and you haven't practiced this language at all. So I know we're all busy, right? So in this step, the trick is not about having more time, right? We only have 24 hours every single day. It's about making more time and prioritizing things. Because when we say that we're too busy, it's just an excuse that we give ourselves. And it means that language learning is not that high on our priority list, right? If your friend comes up to you and says, oh, do you want to hang out next week? And if all you say is, I'm too busy, like, your friend is not gonna feel great. And think about language learning as your friend, especially if learning a new language is very important to you. If it was really important, you'd find the time to do it. So coming back to the question I asked, how many hours can I realistically dedicate to language learning every single week? I usually actually make this number a lot less. Let's say if at the beginning I say that, every single week I have 8 hours to study the language, I usually then choose the number that is significantly lower. Let's say 5. Because again, a lot of people set unrealistic goals and never achieve them. I'm gonna feel a lot better if I set a goal of practicing the language for, 5 hours every single week, and I'm gonna achieve this goal like this, every single week. Then if I set a goal of practicing the language for 8 hours, and I never achieved this goal. And I personally think that in order to maintain this longevity of your love for language learning, you really have to make sure it fits into your life, it fits into your schedule in a nice way, that it makes you feel good, that it doesn't make you feel like, oh my God, it's another thing I have to do and I freaking hate it. And another thing that I want to add here is that you don't necessarily have to have this exact number for every single week. Maybe it's going to be a range, you want to practice the language 5 to 8 hours every single week. It depends, maybe sometimes you're less busy, you have more free time to dedicate to language learning. Moving on to the second step of creating a language learning plan, active and passive learning. I always try to include active and passive learning into my routine. I think for a lot of people, it's a lot easier to include passive learning, right? When you're watching a YouTube video or listening to a podcast or an audiobook, because usually we can stack this habit with something that we do every single day. Let's say you cook and listen to a podcast in English. But when it comes to active learning, a lot of people here struggle because it does require your undivided attention. But I also think how you break up this active and passive learning really depends on your language level and how much you want to increase your level. Because right now in English, I think I only practice passive learning pretty much. Like, I don't take English classes, I don't analyze my grammar and stuff like that. No, I just listen to a lot of things, I watch a lot of things in English. But in Spanish, I know that this strategy will just not work for me because my Spanish level is lower. So for Spanish, I have to dedicate a few hours to active learning. So if you spend 5 hours every single week learning English, you can create this table where you write that you want to dedicate 2 hours to passive English learning and 3 hours to active English learning every single week. Moving on to the third step, which is adding an anchor. A lot of different people call this part in a lot of different ways, but let's call it an anchor. It's basically something that you will do every single week, and you're 100% sure that you will be able to do this activity. For example, take a language class and practice with a teacher. I have this anchor for Spanish right now, and I started having it from the very beginning of my Spanish learning journey because at the beginning, I don't know why, when I am a complete beginner, it's always hard for me to find motivation because there are so many things I don't know. And every single time I open a textbook, you know, there's a new word that I need to learn, a new grammar rule, everything feels so new and it makes me a little bit anxious. So when I added this anchor of every single week, I had a language class with a teacher, it helped me find that consistency that I sometimes lacked. And if you're curious where I take my group classes, the platform is Lingoda, and I started taking lessons there 3 years ago, long before we started working together on my YouTube channel. Guys, I'm telling you, if you have never tried their platform, you absolutely have to do it right now. I am very passionate about their method and how it helps me personally to add this anchor into my language learning routine and make sure I study the language every single week. I love how intuitive their website is, how easy it is for me to choose a class, book it, and then prepare for it with their self-study materials. The group classes themselves are led by native speaking teachers, and over the years of using Lingoda, I got to speak to people from Spain, Mexico, Argentina, Colombia when I took classes to learn Spanish, and from Great Britain, Australia, and the United States for English. And don't worry guys, you will have a lot of time to speak because the groups are very, very small. On Lingoda, you can learn English, business English, Spanish, German, French, and Italian. And they teach all levels from complete beginner to advanced. And once you attend 90% of the lessons in one level, you will receive a certificate from Lingoda. If you want to make language learning a habit and make fast progress, you absolutely have to try their Sprint Challenge. It's an intensive 60-day course, after which you can win a big reward if you attend all the classes. In the Sprint Challenge, you have to take 30 lessons in 60 days. And you will receive a 50% cashback or 30 credits upon successful completion. If you decide to take the Super Sprint Challenge, you will have to take 60 lessons in 60 days, and you will receive a 50% cashback or 60 credits upon successful completion. In a few days, I'm leaving on my summer vacation, and the Lingoda Sprint fits perfectly into my schedule. You can jump into a live online language class with Lingoda from anywhere in the world, and by practicing speaking every day for 2 months, your confidence will increase a lot. So if you want to get the most out of this summer and improve your language skills with the Lingoda Sprint Challenge, be sure to click my link in the description box and get an exclusive discount of up to $152 off upon registration. If you win the challenge and receive 50% cashback as your reward, your savings will total up to $638. The offer is only redeemable by clicking my link, so make sure you save it. And the last day to claim the offer is July 1st. Moving on to the next step, which is creating your weekly planner. So now you know how many hours you can dedicate to language learning every single week. You have your active and passive learning hours, and I think it's time to create your weekly planner. And I think now is the time to plan all the tasks for the week. This weekly planner that you can see on the screen is from my Notion template for language learners. And this is usually how I plan my language learning. I know that my busiest work days are usually Monday and Tuesday, so I give myself some grace and I don't push myself to study the language for like 3 hours on Monday and 3 hours on Tuesday. No, I plan everything off of my work, off spending time with my friends and family, and only after that I fit in my language learning. This next step of your language learning plan, I decided to call it Write Your Why, because it's completely normal to lack motivation sometimes and feel like there's no reason for you to study this language and you don't even know why you decided to study it in the first place. So that's why just having your why written somewhere, maybe it's on Notion, maybe it's in your journal, will help you a lot during the times when you lack motivation, when you feel too tired, when you feel like you're not progressing at all. Because when you write down your why you're learning this language, it suddenly becomes much more real. For example, I want to learn English because I want to become fluent. It's not a great goal on its own. I mean, it just sounds very vague. What exactly does fluent mean? If your answer is really vague, you need to ask why again and again and again until you reach the answer that you know will make the spark alive for you. And I have this why for Spanish. And I think right now I probably don't need this why for English because English is like such a big part of my life now. But with Spanish, I still do need this why because sometimes I lose motivation, sometimes I feel exhausted. And when I open my journal and I read my why, I don't know, I just get motivated again because my why for me is extremely powerful. And finally, once you have your routine, your plan, you have to be ready to adjust it. I know you spend so much time creating this routine, planning everything, but you know, sometimes plans change. Sometimes you have to rearrange your weekly tasks just because of work or family or kids, or maybe you just lost interest in this specific activity and you want to try something new. So these are 3 questions that are nice to ask yourself. What is not working in your language learning right now? Stop it. If you think it's not working for you, stop doing it. What is working? Because we don't only want to focus on the negative. What are the things that you implemented that are working for you amazingly right now? Continue them. And what would you like to try? Maybe it's something new, maybe you've heard of this new method, maybe you watched a YouTube video and the person there recommended something, a new platform, a new app, so start it. This framework of stop, continue, start is something that will help you adjust your routine because your routine doesn't have to stay the same. It doesn't have to be rigid because usually that's something that makes us very bored very quickly. So having this flexibility, always asking yourself, are you happy with your language learning right now? What would you like to change? What is working for you? What would you like to try? Is a great thing to have in your language plan. So I think it's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to use my link below and join the Lingoda Sprint Challenge. This way you will unlock savings and cashback. If you want to learn how to take notes effectively in language learning, I highly recommend checking out my video right here. I share 4 methods to improve your note-taking game, so click right here and keep on watching.